Season 2 of House of the Dragon has not been all about epic battles and heartbreaking defeats, but danger still lurks around every corner, especially for King Aegon II Targaryen and Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen. The aftermath of Rook's Rest has left Aegon virtually bedridden as he recovers from the worst of his dragonfire-caused injuries, thanks to his brother Aemond, who now rules as Prince Regent in his absence. On the other side of the conflict, Rhaenyra may have one vital friend in the former White Worm of King Landing, Mysaria, but she struggles to command a healthy amount of respect, perhaps even fear, from the rest of her small council. No ruler's position has been more perilous. But, as Episode 6 demonstrates, sometimes the best way to grab power is to offer an open hand to the powerless rather than a closed fist. While Aemond appears to have adapted to his new role as Prince Regent as if it were natural, some early frustrations are emerging, most notably Ser Jason Lannister and his army, who refuse to continue their march to Harrenhal without Aemond and his dragon, Vhagar, as escorts. It's hardly an unreasonable request, given that the Blacks currently have more dragons at their disposal, and Daemon and Caraxes are already stationed at Harrenhal, but Aemond isn't delighted about being ordered to heel like a dog. His mood scarcely improves throughout the tiny council discussion. As he makes bold ideas, the most shocking of which being a potential union with the Triarchy of the Free Cities. As Master of Ships Tyland Lannister, Hall, puts out, the Triarchy is little more than mercenaries, pirates at best, and cannot be trusted, but Aemond will not be persuaded easily. Corlys Velaryon and his ship's blockade is taking a toll, cutting off trade routes and limiting the flow of essential products into King's Landing. However, Aemond appears to have a few solid plans of his own, including dispatching Criston Cole, Gwaine Hightower, and a small army of men to march on Harrenhal within a fortnight. Alongside the Lannister army also descending, Daemon will be forced to fight a war on two fronts. However, Aemond wants to join in the fray alongside Vhagar, when the time is ripe, since he certainly can't pass up the opportunity to meet his uncle head-on. He dangles the freshly opened hand of the king position in front of Ser Larry Strong before snatching it away and ordering the Master of Whisperers to bring Otto Hightower to King's Landing instead, if we weren't already aware that Aemond would turn out to be a much different ruler than his brother. The fact that he knows which minds to surround himself with, and who to nudge out of the frame, makes that beyond obvious. In his view, Alicent, as the Dowager Queen, really serves no purpose on the small council beyond being an added voice. Yet Alicent doesn't allow her son to remove her from her seat without delivering a parting shot of her own in private. Have the indignities of your childhood not yet sufficiently been avenged? Apparently not, given that Aemond's visit to his now conscious older brother is fraught with intimidation. As Aegon lies shaking in pain, large portions of his body healing from burns, Aemond all but threatens him to remember the events of Rook's Rest, but Aegon denies any kind of recollection. Either because his memory truly is hazy or because he's feigning ignorance for his own survival. Playing helpless may be the best course of action for the king, as Larys later instructs him. If people begin to underestimate Aegon, he can wield that to his own advantage. Down in King's Landing, the small folk have been stretched thin in terms of resources, and everyone is feeling it, from former Red Keep servant Diana to rumored Targaryen bastard Ulf the White. When word starts to spread of the nobility dining richly every night, with racks of lamb, mince pies, honey cakes, you name it, the grumbling grows louder, especially as Ulf himself notes that King Viserys never would have engaged in nightly revelry while his own people were starving. Such discontent brews hotter still when Alicent and Helena go to the Great September to light candles for the departed and suffering. Chaos has broken out as the small folk scramble for precious resources, and both the Queen and the Dowager are forced to make a run for it to their wheelhouse. The White Cloaks, still primarily made up of Aegon's ill-equipped friends and lackeys, have no idea how to deal with rioting citizens. At least one man loses his hand after grabbing onto Alicent's arm, while one member of the Kingsguard is quickly swarmed and presumably beaten to death. As Alicent and Helena find shelter in the wheelhouse, and Alicent finally notes a wound on her own arm, shouts of "Long live Queen Rhaenyra" begin to fill the streets. Aemond isn't the only one moving to secure a new hand this week, now that Corlys has officially accepted Rhaenyra's job offer. As one of the only presences at the painted table that can command the whole room, He's an ally that the queen will need as she seeks to enact one of her riskiest plans yet, finding some new dragon riders. While the blood of old Valyria doesn't necessarily run as strong in some veins, it's still present in a small group of people, which makes them potential candidates to ride the unclaimed dragons that currently sleep beneath everyone's feet, Vermithor, Silverwing, and Sea Smoke, the latter of whom used to be laners. In terms of the possibilities in Dragonstone, it turns out that Rhaenyra's own Lord Commander, Ser Steffan Darklyn, has Targaryen heritage. Rhaenyra is hopeful that Steffan will be able to win over Sea Smoke, perhaps a little too hopeful, given that the show has already made a point of telling us how dangerous it can be for someone to try to claim a dragon for themselves. In the past, storied dragons like Malaise have rejected Daemon, while poor Rena, Phoebe Campbell, has yet to find a dragon of her own at all. The only other options are Rhaenyra's own children, but they're too young, plus they each have rather adorable baby dragons of their own that are barely the size of small dogs, one of which we get a glimpse of in this episode. Ser Steffan seems to harbor the proper amount of fear and awe for dragons, given what Rhaenyra is asking him to do. In fact, he views it as an honor and proof of his queen's respect for him. Yet as Rhaenyra reminds him, and all of us watching, something like this has never been attempted. You either bond with a dragon, or you die trying, and there's no in-between. Unfortunately for the Queen's Lord Commander, no amount of singing, proper reverence, or efforts to command Sea Smoke in High Valyrian managed to suit the magnificent beast. There comes a moment and it appears as if the dragon might be willing to be mounted, but it's also possible that Sea Smoke could smell the Lord Commander's fear as he approaches. Whatever the reason, Ser Steffan ends up engulfed in dragonfire, and Sea Smoke flies away from Dragonstone to places unknown. Meanwhile, in Harrenhal, Daemon is confronted by the latest person from his past, someone the season has been building up to, King Viserys Targaryen. The two visions that haunt Daemon this week are particularly telling. One is essentially a mirror of the exact same scene from Season 1, in which Viserys confronts Daemon about his rumored heir for a day toast before naming Rhaenyra his heir, while the other finds Daemon comforting his mourning brother over the body of the king's dead wife, Aemma. No wonder, then, that Daemon is teetering on the edge of sanity even more drastically than before, desperate to discover who's truly responsible for playing these tricks on his mind. At one point, Daemon even goes so far as to try to fly away from Harrenhal altogether before he's stilled by Alice Rivers, who calls him out on his habit of running away instead of facing his problems. "You are not the player, but a piece on the board," she sagely points out. Even as Daemon yells at Alice for lecturing him, he still takes in everything she says, about how those who want the crown the least might be the most qualified to wear it, or how the crown itself is a burden to bear rather than a prize to be won. He even asks her for advice on how to handle the whole Riverlord situation, to which she ominously references their liege lord, Riverrun's ailing Lord Grover Tully, as a problem that will handle itself in 3 days' time. Sure enough, 3 days later, Ser Simon Strong brings word that Grover Tully has finally died, despite efforts to heal him from Harrenhal's own Alice Rivers. Rhaenyra, already mourning the loss of a respected member of her Queensguard, is even less willing to put up with scolding from Ser Bartimos Celtigar, resulting in her slapping him with an open hand. "It is my fault, I think, that you have forgotten to fear me," Rhaenyra declares, and later, in private, when she's discovered wielding a sword by Mysaria, seems to be wrestling over whether she can remain a benevolent ruler or if she needs to command with a more iron will. Fortunately, Mysaria has already moved to carry out the next step of their plan in fanning the flames of dissent among the small folk, and it starts with delivering a gift that they're in desperate need of: food. Under cover of night, small boats flying Rhaenyra's banner slowly drift to the shores of King's Landing, bearing essential refreshments. Precisely, Mysaria points out, if Aemond attempted to quell these attempts, resistance in that city would heat up even more, yet this strategy also suggests that benevolence may still be feasible amidst the more violent confrontations of fire and blood. Meanwhile, now that Rhaenyra and Mysaria appear to be becoming closer, what does this mean for any chance of reconciliation with Daemon? The two women don't have time to discuss their embrace, which eventually leads into a long kiss, as they are interrupted by word that Sea Smoke has a new rider. But in that brief, personal moment between them. Miseria says all Rhaenyra has wished to hear from anyone, but especially her own husband. It remains to be seen whether this is the start of a completely new type of collaboration or another form of manipulation. That's the end. Unlock the secrets of storytelling through our video, our YouTube channel's guide to the art of cinema. Join us as we delve into the narratives, the characters, and the sheer enchantment that movies bring to our lives. From script to screen, we've got it all covered. Join us as we analyze, critique, and appreciate the magic of movies. Subscribe to our channel for more videos.